I'm going to play devil's advocate and say sustainability has a cost.
How important is it to have constant supply of water in the work that you guys do?
It's very important.
Water is the key ingredient in our products.
Water as a form of security cuts into the cost and the profit line. Water is indeed life. Manzindi moyo. It's really so essential for every step of the process.
We look at 3 parts when it comes to water. We look at water in our operations, water in our supply chain, then water in our communities. Fun fact, how much liters of water do you think we need to make just 1 bottle of beer? The most important people that you need to listen to and know what they want is the communities.
People are only as motivated as far as their problems go. Like, if you're trying to solve a problem that they have, then they'll care.
How does capacity building look like in that space?
The way I approach capacity building is kind of like problem solving, but only at the capacity that a person, first of all, can and wants to be.
Sustainability, and when it comes to water, it's more than just writing a check and an infrastructure. Right. It's the resilience, it's the investment. For us, it's not a nice thing to do. It's a must-have. It gives us the license to operate. Sustainability is not expensive. We need to let go of that. Anybody can do any sustainable activities in the comfort of your home, in your offices, wherever you are.
Do I use glass for my bottles instead of plastic? It is an opportunity cost of like benching on the future. That's going to be worse by making this non-sustainable decision now. Choosing sustainability does come with a responsibility and a weighted decision that you must make.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Christopher Shire, and I'm excited to welcome you to another episode of Sustainability Bongo. Over here, we have conversations that help us break down concepts into everyday language. We demystify some myths about sustainability, and more importantly, we put a spotlight on businesses, innovators, entrepreneurs who are championing sustainability right here in Tanzania. The main aim is for us to understand and figure out just how relevant the sustainability conversation is here in Tanzania. Thanks to CEO Roundtable and IUCN, which stands for the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, through the NBS initiative, who have collaborated with us at Campus Idea to help make this a reality and to help us decode Tanzanians' sustainability story. With me today are 2 amazing leaders who, in their own rights, are championing social impact through their businesses and through purpose-led storytelling, all with the hopes of promoting long-term well-being for all. Now, our first guest is a senior communication and sustainability leader. She has over 8 years experience in ESG partnerships, in reputational management. She's also worked in brand storytelling in the hopes of really promoting sustainable practices. She's also a recipient of the 2025 DIAGEO's Champions for Inclusions Award, currently serving as the Senior Manager for Communication and Sustainability at Serengeti Breweries, otherwise known as EABL, which is in fact a subsidiary of DIAGEO as well. This is none other than Ms. Rispa Hatibu. Karibu sana.
Hi, thank you so much. Asante sana. What an introduction.
Yes, yes. And with her, we have a second guest. We have 2 guests today. She is an entrepreneur and a businesswoman who, amongst many things, is also running a plant-based social enterprise for over 6 years. She has an incredible portfolio, moving from idea to business profitability within 2 years. Her work focuses on product strategy, brand strategy, growth marketing, and also data-driven storytelling. You can tell we're going to have a lot of fun today. And another thing which I think is super special is she's also a nominee of the UK's Business Women Club Businesswoman of the Year Award in 2025. and she's currently serving as the founder of Bantu Vegan, or Bantu Vegan, depending on how you pronounce it. Karibu sana, Sabrina. Yegela.
Asante.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. I love that introduction.
Yeah?
Good.
It does justice to what you guys are
Oh, I
doing.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to do that whenever I go anywhere from now
Let's
on.
go. I could be your personal introducer. Okay, so in this podcast we have conversations about sustainability, and I think oftentimes when we hear sustainability, the first thing that comes to mind is, for most people, is the environment or it's climate change, and it's many things. But I have learned, and I'm learning, that it is also to do with people. It's to do with businesses. It's to do with prosperity, generally speaking. And so today, I would like to speak on sustainability through the lens of people and also business. And the way I want to do that today is by talking about something that is very important to what the both of you are doing, which is water. Okay. We know that water is a resource. We know that water is a catalyst for a lot of economic activities. But we also know that water is life. In some of the research I was doing yesterday, I came across Madzindi Moyo, right? Which is water is life in Malay. I did that when I was doing research on you. But before we get started, I think probably everyone that's listening knows what Serengeti Breweries does. But not everyone probably knows what Bantu Vegan does. So I want to start with you, Sabrina. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do with Bantu Vegan? And more importantly, I'm curious to know the role that water has to play in the work that you do. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that question. Water is indeed life, actually. Manzindi moyo. It's a Chichewa phrase that we used a lot when I was working with this nonprofit in Malawi. And so what does Bantu Vegan do? So we are a three-pronged business model. So we have produce. So these are the non-cash crops that come straight from the farm. These are the vegetables and the fruits that we grow. So we grow mangoes and cashews and cassava and maize. And then the second part of the business model is the products that we make. So we value add some of the things that we grow on the farm. And then we also contract with other farmers that also kind of practice the same sustainable methods that we practice. And we upgrade these products, this produce into products for skin or for shelf. So we have things like the mango pickles, and we also make wine. So we're still looking for licensing to do that.
Okay.
And then we do the much more known soaps, and now we're moving into shampoo bars, and we're thinking about building a whole production line of them. And then the third part of the business model kind of completes this ecosystem, and that is the experience leg of our business. So we get a lot of requests from people like, can you run a workshop on how I can grow mushrooms like you guys do? Can I come visit your farm and volunteer and learn how to do sustainable practices? Or can I teach my nonprofit how to farm native maize, for example, instead of the GMO product maize? But how do I get a good yield from it? Can I come learn? And so we started creating a experiential leg for it. So we're calling it a farm B&B, but also farm hotel, whatever kind of like includes this hospitality leg of the agritourism that we're starting to grow.
Okay.
So that's essentially what we do at Bantu Vegan.
Okay. You said farm B&Bs?
Farm B&Bs, yes, that's what I'm calling them.
Okay.
But farm hotel is a little bit easier to understand.
Okay. And if I'm understanding that correctly, it's like you said, people who are interested in seeing firsthand the work that you do, but also you being able to offer services from from a hospitality perspective, so to say. Okay, that is so interesting. I think I was only familiar with obviously the skincare stuff and the soap, but I also didn't know about the wine, which is interesting.
Yes, it's kind of under the table as we're trying to refine our formulations and also trying to get the right licensing to be able to actually sell it. Yeah.
Okay. And so I think maybe just to kind of go straight into what we are discussing today. how do I ask this? How important is it to have constant supply of water in the work that you guys do?
Whew, it's very important. Yeah,
Mm.
sorry, I forgot about that side. It's super important because, for example,
Mm.
last year, especially during November, December, that's kind of when mango season is at its peak and you're harvesting mangoes. We didn't get as much from the harvest because of neighboring herds. So there is a group of Mangati tribe that
Okay.
kind of have the same grazing land
Right.
around the farm that we work on. And so because we didn't have strict borders between us and them,
Yeah.
they developed a habit of passing through our land to feed their cows our mangoes, for example, because it's so easy to just shake a tree and then the mangoes will fall down. And then
Right.
because there's not enough water and there's not enough grazing land for the herds, they will, I don't want to say attack, but they will encroach into farmland. And so there's always these little strifes that happen between the herders and the farmers.
Yeah.
And that's so challenging even at a local government level. And so water became such a distinctly important thing for us that we started having to think about water as a form of security, first of all, as it cuts into the costs and the profit line
I see.
of the business.
Yeah.
But it also is really so essential for every step of the process. So even building the fence, for example, which is our next job that we're doing right now, because we're saying, okay, we need to fence in all our acres of land because this is not going to be productive in the long run. But even that requires water to mix in with the cement, for example, for putting the fence into the posts.
Right. Yeah.
And so we couldn't start that when we had the drought season that happened in December through January, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so water is indeed super important, and every day I realize how much so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think if I'm hearing you correctly, there's many ways to think about this. There's water for the production itself, but you've also added another layer of actually being able to use water as a way to protect the work that you're doing as well, which kind of leads me to another question now. I want to address it to you, Rispa.
Yeah.
I read something yesterday. I think it was in one of your reports. And it was clever too, the way it was written. I think it was written grain to glass.
Yes.
And I saw that I think it was written something like water is a key ingredient to all of your products, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, everybody knows what your products are, but
Yeah.
I think the question I want to ask you is, given, stories like the one that Sabrina has shared with us, how influential or to what intensity does water risk affect the work that you do in terms of manufacturing your product, but also the communities that you work with, because I understand you work with many communities around that same subject.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, as you said, for us, water is the key ingredient in our products.
Yeah.
And water, as I say, water is life. So you touched about grain to glass sustainability. Let me speak a little bit about that. So we have our sustainability agenda called the Spirit of Progress, Society 2030. And this is something that we launched 10 years ago, where we wanted by 2030, we wanted to reach the targets that we set ourselves up. And this is aligns with the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 for by the UN. So we are halfway there. And the Spirit of Progress is broken down into 3 initiatives. So, and the third one, which is the grain to glass sustainability, which pretty much looks at the climate, environment part, the E in the ESG, which is the environment. Now, another pillar in the grain to glass is water. So we look at 3 parts in terms when it comes to water. We look at water in our operations, water in our supply chain, then water in our communities. And it's so important that water is very important in our operations. I can give you a fun fact. Maybe I can ask you a question back to you. How much liters of water do you think we need to make just 1 bottle of beer?
What beer are we talking? Serengeti?
Serengeti Light, the 330 ml. Just take a wild guess. How many liters of water?
1 bottle.
1 bottle, just 1 bottle that you probably enjoy.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say 1 liter.
Okay. All right. And you, Sabrina?
10.
10. Okay. It's actually 5 liters of
5.
water that is
Wow.
needed to make just 1 bottle of water,
Wow.
1 bottle of beer. And that means from the processing, from the washing, from the everything, it takes 5 liters of water. So that's a lot of water that we use in our operations.
Right.
And we extract this water from whether it's nearby communities, whether maybe it's working with DAWASA or MOASA and stuff like that. So what we did as a business, we said we want to replenish this water back to the community that we take from the community. So that's why we came up with a sort of an initiative called Water for Life. So Water for Life are water projects that we do, that we give back to the community, where we sell, where we serve, where we work. So the water replenishment programs projects is the water that we use in our brewery. And I don't want to get too technical, but there's some, we come up with KPIs every year.
Okay.
So every year I'm given a KPI. You say this year, Rispa, you need to replenish, let's say 147,000 cubic meters of water back into the community.
Right.
And how do we come up with that number? We look at how much water either we are going to use, the outlook that we're going to use for that year, or the water that we have used previously. So that water is somehow calculated. The geniuses who sits, they calculate it and they come back and say, because this is the amount of water maybe you have used in your Moshi Brewery, for example, because that is our biggest brewery that we have in Tanzania, you need to replenish this water back in the area surrounding the Moshi Brewery. So that's how we come up with these water projects.
Right.
So I get KPIs that we need to deliver. So then we go to the water projects, which is boreholes and whether it's irrigation or not. And we partner. And I'll talk about a little bit about partnership at a later stage, but we partner with NGOs. For example, we've been partnering with Water Aid for the past 5 years to do these water projects.
Right.
But communities are the most important people. So when you talk about sustainability in Tanzania, I think the most important thing is water. And it's about resilience, right? It's no longer about just going and digging a borehole and then leaving. It's how sustainable is that water going to be after you have left? You know, Chris, the government creates the framework, right? Whether it's water sustainability projects, whether it's agriculture, they create the framework. NGOs then, with these non-government organizations, then sets the capability, brings in the resources. But the private sector, where I sit, is where our key responsibility then is about, the discipline, the innovation, but how, and the investment that we bring in to make sure those water projects are sustainable. But you asked me about communities and why it's important. So I'll give an example with the water projects that we do. And I give one big example is the water project that we did in 2023. For me, I believe that's one of the best projects we have done in Handeni, Tanga, where we replenished about 137 cubic meters of water with the people of Handeni, and which impacted over 2,000 people around that area.
Right.
And we worked with Water Aid. But beyond just building an infrastructure of water, we look at the people and the community surrounding, and we say, who are the people that will actually benefit from this water? It's women and children, right? So what we do is, before we go and do the water project, we have wash committees that we set up within that area, and we train them. So we partner with Care International or Water Aid when we have a framework where we train these women, and we make sure that the women are part of the wash committee, because sometimes we'll go and find out that yes, there's a wash committee, but there's no women in that wash committee. So we make sure the women are there. We train them how to take care of that water project, and after the water project is done, those women are the ones that take care of the water project, make sure that it's sustainable for the time. Because for private sectors, yes, we do invest in this water projects, but we won't be coming every year to put more money in it because maybe there's a leak here, there's a leak there. We make sure that we're setting these wash committees to make those water projects sustainable. So that's one part where we invest in women, we invest in training, and they end up using this water for other economic activities.
Right.
One of the success stories that in that project was the women, there were like 20 women, they used the water to start making soaps. So they were making soaps or agriculture activities, horticulture, where they end up selling these soaps. So you're also benefiting them. You're not just handing them a water project, but you're also giving them the tool to making sure that, they're sustaining themselves economically. And water is that tool. So that's just one part. And then, of course, there's the agriculture part that we do.
Right.
Another important thing that we're supposed to, criteria is to making sure that what agriculture activities are happening around that area. For us, we focus on 3 because that's 3 sort of cereals that we use to make our products, which is cereal, which is maize, barley, and sorghum. So mahindi, shairi na mtama. And that area, that Handeni, they are mostly known for sorghum farming. So we recruit farmers around that area. We put them into our database or system. We train them. We give them agronomy training because we have something called agribusiness in our portfolio. So we train them. We give them free seedlings to farm the sorghum, the quality sorghum that we need, and then after that we buy it from them. So again, more than just an infrastructure, we are, first of all, we're making sure that we're giving them training. So that's climate, that's smart agriculture. We're training them how to farm right, with the right quality that we need, soil, the right soil that we need. So and that's important when you look at the climate right now and the climate change that's happening. The training is very important. So after that, then at the end of the day, we are the off-takers. We come and off-take from them. We buy the sorghum. Again, you're uplifting them economically. So as I said, sustainability, and when it comes to water, it's more than just writing a check and an infrastructure. It's a resilience, it's the investment, but it's also the sustainability after the fact.
Yeah. No, you've said so many things that I want to get back to. But just to make sure I understood correctly, and I'm going to try and break it down just to see if we're on the same page. So what you're saying is, let's say if on average you use 5 liters to make 1 bottle of beer, the replenishment is based off of the KPIs that you guys are calculating, and you would, let's say, replenish, let's say, 7 liters for every bottle that you used 5 liters from. Okay, so it's always ensuring that there's more given back than was taken away.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and I think you actually went ahead to answer what I was going to ask you next, because I did see in your report from last year that I think to date you've spent 2 billion in water systems and infrastructures, and I saw 28, I believe, water systems have been built in Tanzania.
Projects,
And I was actually going to ask, okay, beyond providing access, what other initiatives? Because I think I saw a few things here and there. You mentioned the soap making, but I was really curious to understand. But now I think I do, in the sense that you not only replenish the water, but you also provide almost like education for how they can sustain themselves and carry on from there. Okay, so I think this is a nice segue, because the next thing I want to talk about actually is about capacity building. And Sabrina, I know you started your business here first, and then you went to school in the London Business School, and then you came back. I read an article actually that you wrote, which I thought was super interesting. You said something to the effect of institutional learning provides coherence in how you're explaining things, but learning on the ground provides competence, right? And I think also just reading about the work that you have also done with the moving windmills in Malawi, which if you can speak on it, I'd really appreciate that. But I'm just curious to understand, how does capacity building look like on the ground? Like when you're running your business, let's say at your farms or when you're in Malawi, how does learning happen? Let's say with the workers that you work with, how is capacity building done in that space, if you will?
Well, thank you for, first of all, reading my article.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, oh yeah, that I do stand by it. Yes. So capacity building at a kind of like very low on the ground level. So for example, when you were talking about the surrounding communities and like how do you kind of give back the water. For us, because we felt like we were taking away these herders' rights to like, you know, food for their animals, I kind of like went through this existential crisis where I was like, all right, if we block our farm and then also other people have also blocked their farms, where are these herders going to go? Where are they going to get food from? Because also it's changing, right? Like the topography is changing. Being a nomadic tribe is getting harder and more impossible. So we kind of segued into practicing how to grow black soldier fly larvae.
Okay. Sorry, what's that?
Black soldier fly larvae. So it's like these black soldier flies. They can be attracted to organic waste.
Okay.
So compost, anything that's like not cooked. And they kind of reproduce.
Okay.
And then you catch them right before they want to dig back into the soil and grow into flies. You catch them while they're still larvae. And you can take that larva, you can dry it, and you can feed fish, animals. You can also convert it into a pulp and use it as organic fertilizer. And we have a lot of organic waste. So we were like, all right, how else can we provide for the farmers? You know, like we're a plant-based farm, so we don't have any animal livestock. But what's stopping us from using our organic waste to help the farmers that are actually growing livestock and they're having a hard time finding food? And yeah, and I kind of like struggle with that thought because I'm like, all right, I believe in plant-based agriculture. I don't really believe in animal agriculture, animal husbandry, but a lot of people practice animal husbandry in a time where climate change is very challenging. So we've been working with herders and kind of like teaching them how we do black soldier fly larvae collection. And we also started doing hydroponic, but in a very simple way.
Sorry, what is that?
Hydroponic. Hydroponic farming is when you farm with just basically water as a substrate.
Okay.
Like you don't farm with soil.
Okay. Okay.
So you can take a bunch of trays, for example, and then you can lay some maize or even some mtama. Some mtama or ulezi, whatever is kind of like cheaper. And you layer it into a like kind of like a 1 millimeter thick like film, and then you water it.
Okay.
And then after a while, you get like seedlings that are about this tall, and it's kind of like a blanket of grass.
Okay.
And you can use that to feed animals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we've been thinking of ways that we can actually like build capacity, but for the things that are lacking. Because every time I hear capacity building, I hear it in the form of like corporate world where people want to build capacity. Like someone needs to know how to do the books. Someone needs to know how to respond to customers in a certain way. And I had that idea when I first came back from London Business School where I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to build capacity. I'm going to teach everybody all the like technological and like all the AI information I have now and like all this like kind of like book smart things that I thought like, okay, if everyone can know what I know, we can get ahead. But then when you work on the ground, you actually realize that like people are only as motivated as far as their problems go. Like if you're trying to solve a problem that they have, then they'll care. So you're trying to solve, oh, I can't feed my animals. Yeah, I'll go to that workshop. Or you're trying to solve, oh, I want to be able to work for myself. I want to grow mushrooms. Then I'll go to that workshop and like build capacity. It's the same thing that happened with me when I went to CEDO for the first time. Because at first I was skeptical because government agency, no offense. And then when I quickly went to CEDO because I needed a certification to like deal with chemicals. Because when you're building soaps and shampoos and things like that, it's like, you know, it could harm somebody if you don't mix it in the right way because it's all chemistry. But I went to CEDO and then I learned so much. They actually have an incredible organization there. I actually really love CEDO.
Okay. Yeah.
Sponsor me, just kidding. And I got my capacity built there, but for a very specific problem that I had. So the way I approach capacity building is kind of like problem solving, but only at the capacity that a person, first of all, can and wants to be incapacitated. Is that a word?
Yeah. That's a very interesting way to look at it. So basically, it's saying before I can build capacity amongst a particular group of people, maybe I should try and figure out what their problems are. First.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what I know you mentioned moving windmills. That is exactly what they taught me, actually. Working with them for those few years has taught me that you have, if you want to do community development, you have to ask the community what they want. You have to work with them constantly and only give them what they want. Don't think that you know more.
Yeah.
Is what I've learned.
Yeah. I kind of like, I like that because I'm a big believer in human-centered design. And that's basically the core principle, that if you're building something for someone, you consult them at every stage of whether it's ideating, whether it's validating, first prototype or anything like that. So I'm seeing an analogy here, because it's the same thing when you're trying to, I don't want to use the word build capacity again, but build capacity or solve a problem, which I think is super interesting. You mentioned hydroponics. It's called
Yes.
hydroponics. I think we once had a conversation, and you were telling me about how, like when you go to school, you have the words and the vocabularies for some of these things, but half the times, maybe some of these things were already being practiced in our local communities. Do you find that to be the reality still right now, even as you run your business? Like, do you ever go to the farm maybe, and then you find people are doing things that you maybe learned at school using different complex language?
100%, yes. And I love seeing it. So the conversation we had was, I was telling Chris about the time I realized when I was doing my MBA that I was practicing vertical farming. I just thought I was just farming. And then I showed a picture of how we grow our mushrooms, and they're like, oh, you're doing vertical farming. And I was like, that sounds so much cooler than how I was phrasing it. So I'm definitely going to do that. And it's true. I do find that there are certain things that I see Tanzanians do inherently, right? Like it's either part of their culture or part of like a traditional way of doing something. And it's just considered very casual. Like, it's like, oh yeah, they do that. Like they farm 3 different products at the same time. But then when you start reading about it in like a business case study, you hear words like permaculture, and you hear words like rotational cropping, and they sound so much fancier. They sound so much more like well-informed. Or you hear about 3D printing of mud houses. And you're like, so building with mud, something that we used to do from the beginning of time, but now it's cool again. And now it has this like technology surface to it that makes it sound much more sexy than what we were practicing, which is, actually I was talking to a professor of mine, and she called it something about sustainable architecture. And we do practice our sustainable architecture. And so there's some old buildings in Costa that you can see, for example, when like, the buildings have little windows into the bricks. Like that was like an old way of like making a building cool by making sure that the hot air rise and stuff. So yes, I do hear a lot of like big words when I'm in rooms with people who are as educated as I am. And then I see people who had a different kind of education and a different kind of experience practice these things that are not as celebrated because they're not packaged in the right words, I would say.
That's very interesting. This episode of Sustainability Bongo is brought to you by CEO Roundtable in partnership with IECN via the Resolve NBS initiative. Under its business and sustainability agenda, the CEO Roundtable has been working with the private sector in integrating sustainability in their respective business strategies. The Resolve NBS initiative is a very practical way of showing how nature-based solutions can create real impact right here in Tanzania. We're so proud to have them as our partners on this journey as we decode Tanzanians' sustainability story. I just want to bring it back to you, Rispa, right?
Yeah.
So because you work with many different kinds of stakeholders, you work with communities, you work with government institutions, the likes of CEDAW and everything, do you find that to also be the case where maybe there is a language barrier that makes it difficult, let's say, for people on the ground to understand what these other stakeholders are wanting to communicate, or the agendas that are being pushed on this side? Or is there and is there an understanding, like, are stakeholders on the same page about this, or is it fragmented?
I think somehow it's fragmented, and I feel like, and I believe that each stakeholders have their own agenda and their own sort of KPIs that they need to deliver. When you look at the government, when you look at the Ministry of Water, you just look at their 2030 agenda that they wanted to achieve by 2030. The water strategy is different. You know, they have their ways that they want to do. When you look at government institutions, NGOs, such like maybe Water Aid, they have their Water Aid strategy. They have their water strategy that they want to do. But then for me, I always say the most important people that you need to listen to and know what they want is the communities. Because people who are going to be impacted first with the climate change, with the decisions that we are making, whether it's in boardrooms, whether it's in, meetings and summits, all the summits that we like doing, it's what do the communities want? And what we do, and which I'm very proud of, is the fact that even before we go to this water project, we actually go to the communities and have a sit down with them and have a conversation with them. And that's why we have this, as I mentioned earlier, the water wash councils or wash groups where we, wash committees where we go and sit down and understand before we even start a water project. So we can identify the areas that we want to do the water projects, because these places, they need water because they don't have water. But we sit down with first and understand what are the issues. Why let's say what are the women facing there that is a big issue. It's beyond water. Because sometimes we also look at beyond water, what other issues on the ground can we solve? Because we're here. When you look at girls who are walking miles and miles to go to school, or they can't even go to school because they need to go and fetch water first. So one of the things that we do is that we make sure that we bring water next to their homes, next to in the nearby community, so they don't have to walk long miles to go and fetch water. And with all these 29 projects that we have done so far, it's somehow solved those issues. When we go, because we audit these projects every year, and when we go back and see the impact that has brought to the communities, it's completely different, right? The girl child is now, has able to go to school, able to do other activities, and that's a social aspect. When you look at sustainability, ESG, the social aspect comes up, right? It's about how inclusive are we in this projects that we are implementing, or the sustainable projects that we're implementing. And for me, I believe the most important stakeholders are the community members, women, children, men, people with disabilities. They're the ones that are benefiting. So we need to think about them first when we're sitting in boardrooms and setting up KPIs and setting up targets. And yes, I commend the government, especially the Ministry of Water, that they're really trying to put in place all these plans and to serve the communities and bring water close to our homes. But we have a long way to go, right? But it's a learning process. We learn every day. But I do believe that each stakeholders have their own agenda. But I feel like we all need to make sure at the end of the day, the last person, which is the community, are benefiting from these plans that we have.
That's I tend to agree with what you've shared, and it kind of it's raised another question in my mind, which I was planning to ask later, but I think now is the best time to ask. Being that you work for a multinational organization that is able to even produce let's say sustainability reports, and you have stakeholders across all of these different places, what would you say is the role of reporting in terms of building trust amongst these different stakeholders? Let me just end there for now.
Transparency. I think I always say transparency is key. And we have been doing the sustainability reports, EABL, including Tanzania. We've been doing this is our fifth sustainability report, the one we just launched last year. And when we started, we wanted to be transparent in what we are saying we are doing, right? And the only way you can be transparent is through these reports. We follow a global standard, the GRI, which is the Global Reporting Initiative, where we making sure that everything that we're saying, the KPIs, the targets that we have set up, every year we're checking, we're reporting on that, right? We're keeping each other on our toes. We are, and when you look at investors that we people who want to invest in the business or partners, we want to bring on board, because I always say sustainability and initiatives, you cannot do it alone. You need partnerships, right? You need partners. Even the government needs the private sector. We need the government to making sure that, we are running this sustainability projects. So reporting is very key. So even if I go to, let's say, a government and I'm presenting a project that I want to do with the government, the first thing will ask me is, give me the data. What are the findings? What have you seen out there? What from your perspective, from the business, what are the targets that you have set yourself, and where are you now versus the target that you set, right? So you're able to show that, you're able to deliver that because of the reporting. So I think transparency is very key. And right now, sustainability has evolved. It has evolved. It's moving from CSR. We used to do CSR back in 10 years ago, where you go and just dig a hole and plant trees, which is still very important, don't get me wrong. But it has evolved now. It has evolved from CSR to sustainability to, making sure that you're reporting, you're setting targets, you're setting KPIs, and you're delivering those targets, and you're being transparent that every year you're reporting against the target that you're set up to be. Because if you're not reporting and if you're not setting up something, then there's no point of having all these things, right? Why are you doing it? It's not a nice to have. It's a must do. It's a must have. And that's what we say, that for us, sustainability is not a nice thing to do. It's a must have. It's important, because it also gives us the license to operate in the business. Because right now, when you look at we're not a listed company because we're under EABL, but when you look at the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, they're now required for every company that is listed. You need to report sustainability targets and achievements. It's a required thing. So and Tanzania is getting there. For me, my message is, all these private sectors, and and you mentioned something which I always get questions. So Rispa, you're talking about all these things because you guys can afford it. What about the SMEs? What about the small private companies and organizations that they don't have the big budgets like Serengeti has? What's your message to them? And I say, and then that's true, right? Not everyone has a big budget to do all these big projects. But I go back to saying, partnerships. So if an SME wants to come and do a sustainability project because they have their own targets, they can then come and partner with like-minded like Serengeti, who are the big players, and come and do partnership. They can do 50-50 or sponsorship, and that's how you can also achieve the targets. So I believe that everybody has a responsibility, but also has ways, and when there's a will, there's a way, to making sure that they are achieving those sustainability targets, and KPIs. So to answer your question, it's transparency. It's important.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I tend to agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think what I want to ask on top of that very quickly is, say, for example, I work in the corporate world. I'm a manager. I can access the sustainability reports that you guys have prepared. Being that, because there are many different stakeholders, maybe there are different communities and whatnot. When I see films like, let's say, the one you did at Magu District and all of these things, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, okay, these guys have tried to figure out a way to communicate the same message in a way that can be digestible to maybe the communities that they're actually serving. Is that true? And if it is, I think the question I wanted to ask is, do you see any more opportunities for better storytelling or better communication of the wonderful work that you guys are doing, so that every single stakeholder understands the transparency that you're not just you, just generally anyone who's in that space would have.
Yeah, you've touched a nerve there because
Yeah.
communications and storytelling is my passion.
Mhm.
And yes, to answer your question, yes, there is opportunity, and I think storytelling is very key. It's very important because when you're doing these projects and you don't have anything to show for, like, yes, you do the project, you close, you move to the next thing. But what we decided to do and what we're trying to do is for each project that we do, for each engagement that we make, how do we tell that story of success? And that's why I think you've seen all the documentaries that we do. Every time we do a project and we launch a project, we do these films, we do these documentaries to show, not just to brag that we are doing this, but to really show the impact that we have created. So what was the solution? What was the problem? We came here, we saw, I think when you saw the Magu project we did last year, if you looked at the documentary, we started with what was the problem? What did we find here? How did we start? What was the journey? We trained the women that were there, the men that were there from the WASH committees, into the infrastructure of the water projects, and then into the community people who are now benefiting from that project. The wakulima, the agribusiness activities that we did as well, that now people may benefit from those projects. So storytelling is key, but how you tell your story matters, right? You tell your story for impact. You tell your story for the journey that you have started to where you are now, and people believe, people remember when they see it, when they hear, the visuals that they see, they always remember. That's why, when we do the stories, when we do this series, just like we're doing here, the podcast is something that people will look and remember. And when you look at and when you look at the videos, most of them are in Swahili, because we're interviewing the actual people on the ground who have been impacted with this project. So yes, to answer your question, storytelling is very important. I think each organization should do it, but it's storytelling for impact, the impact that you're creating, because this is something that we always remember and that we always put there. So yeah.
I love that. And I think this is an amazing layup for what I want to ask you next, which I know the work at Moving Windmills was actually something that inspired a Netflix feature film, right?
Almost.
Okay.
Almost.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I can explain it actually. I love Moving the Mills. They gave me hope at a time where I had lost a lot of hope in development organizations, because I used to work for a development organization that I shan't name. And I was very jaded about that environment because I felt like, it's not enough is moving the needle. But then again, life is complicated. But Moving Windmills is a story of hope, honestly. So it's the organization that's based in Malawi, and they work with communities, especially in Kasungu. It's a kind of like central part of Malawi, very isolated, very small, very agricultural community. And it's quite left behind in ways that are hard to explain to somebody that's like kind of like maybe lives in Dar es Salaam and Tanzania, and like you see kind of like the best of a quickly growing sub-Saharan African country. But there's a lot of lack of public services. So across the board, from water to education to electricity to all of that. And then they're also landlocked. So that also makes things very, very difficult, moving things into the country. They don't have a port the way we have a port. But the story is called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and this is it was a New York Times bestseller. It's a really good movie, and it's also a Netflix film. And now actually they're doing a theater production, so they're going to do it in London in Soho House.
Oh, nice!
And they're going to make a live theater show about it. So that's pretty cool. But William, the boy who the book and the story is written about, he, after he got his education at Dartmouth, which is where I met him and his wife, they ended up coming back to Malawi from the US and then starting the organization to kind of continue the story of the boy who harnessed the wind, because he had infrastructure and resources and people to kind of like, compel him, but he didn't have enough when he was younger. So he thought, let me make an innovation center back in Malawi where like-minded people can gather and they can innovate and they can kind of like co-create together solutions, African solutions to African problems. So that's what they're doing right now. And they're kind of in their second leg of raising funds for the innovation center.
Right.
So they were there. They were like, let's build an innovation center, but quickly realized that, we need to start with public services. So they've been digging wells and they've been teaching people how to farm with more diverse crops. And they've been teaching people how to kind of like, search for information by themselves. And they've built these off-grid systems that function as these hubs of like innovation and help and community building. So very cool formula. They're very much hands-on learning and kind of emergent strategy towards building community capacity, but together.
Okay.
Very cool.
Okay. No, that's amazing. That sounds amazing. I think what I'm hearing, which also kind of underpins what Rispa is saying, is there is a way in which creative storytelling together with partnerships can be used to break these silos. Because I think in the same article that you had written, I think you had spoken about something about how surprised you were how separate, water conversations are from agriculture to public health. And I think what I'm hearing here is one of the ways to break these silos is to have proper storytelling, which can serve as a way to report on the issues that are happening, but also the initiatives that are solving those issues, but also as a way to invite people into taking action, whether it's innovation centers like what is happening in Kasungu, or any other thing. So perhaps there's someone who's listening right here in Tanzania who's thinking, maybe this is something that I could do. Maybe this is something that could work, provided you have the right kind of partners to work with. And that is what I am moving away with. Now, there's so many things I want to get back to, but because of time, I have to get to the one thing that I always ask my guests. So I normally ask it in different ways, and each one of you, I'd like for each one of you to answer it. But part of the goal is to demystify certain things about sustainability. So because we were talking about water today, I would like to hear from each one of you, what is one water and sustainability myth or mindset that you would like the listener to just let go of? Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's not true, that you would like the listener to leave with. I'll start with you, Rispa.
Okay. One myth that I have so many.
Yeah, I mean, you can give us two if you want.
I think I watched your first episode. And I know somebody said about the color green. Yeah. So it's not green. Okay, we need to let go of that. I think that's already said. But I think for me is sustainability is not expensive. I think we need to let go of that. I think anybody, even at your home, you can be sustainable. Even just by making sure you're closing the tap once you're done washing dishes and not let the water run. You're thinking about the next person. You're not wasting water. You're being sustainable. Switching off your lights, you're saving energy. You're being sustainable. Recycling waste, you're being sustainable. You can do any sustainable activities in the comfort of your home, in your offices, in wherever you are. Sustainability, when you hear the word, people think when you hear sustainability, ESG, oh my God, what is this big elephant in the room? It's not expensive. It's doable, but it's here. It's not going anywhere. Right. It's what we're facing. Climate change is serious. It is real. And I feel like we as Tanzanians, we need to wake up and realize that and accept it and work on it. Right. Whether it's clean energy, it's clean cooking, it is, water replenishment, it's energy saving, and or it's just when you look at the governance part of it, it's about reporting, it's about being transparent, things, even human rights, it's part of the governance. It's serious, and we need to making sure that in one way or another, we are playing our part to make the world a better place and more sustainable. Because even for the future generation that we are going to leave behind, and our children, our children's children, we are making sure that we're leaving a world better than we found it. I think for me, that's the myth that we need to let go of.
I see. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that a lot. Thank you. Yeah. What about you, Sabrina?
I'm going to play devil's advocate
Please.
and say sustainability has a cost.
Yeah.
It is more expensive from my experience with it. But it is, I'm going to use a Swahili phrase, vya bure ni ghali, vya bure ghali.
Yes.
Cheap is expensive
Yeah.
at the same time, right? I think it's almost an opportunity cost, though. That is what you're paying for. Like, do I use glass for my bottles, my bottles of juice instead of plastic? The glass bottles would be a little bit more expensive than the plastic bottles. But 10 years from now, I'm going to pay for it with the plastic bottles in ways that I'm not going to pay for it, with the glass bottles. And so it is an opportunity cost of like you're kind of benching on the future that's going to be worse by making this like non-sustainable decision now. Even though you're not making big margins per product because you've chosen the sustainable or compostable or green route, and you're using these plastics, but these plastics, they give us cancer and they block our mifereji during the rainy season, right? Like every time there's flooding in the Dar es Salaam streets because there's so many plastic bottles that have been tossed in the mifereji. And then there is also plastic in our food systems now because we're consuming so much plastic wares. And so I look to companies let's say Azam Bahresa or Mo companies, and I see so many plastic juices and sodas and all these things, and I'm like, you can afford to make a better decision, and I'm curious as to why you won't, at the expense that you're paying for this externality cost in the future. And so I think that choosing sustainability does come with a responsibility and a weighted decision that you must make. Like you said, it's climate change is a real affecting thing that's happening to all of us right now. And we all, even at the individual level, have to start making decisions that are going to save us in the future.
Right.
But companies even more so, especially if you can afford it. If you can afford to be sustainable, you have no right not to do it just because you want to make as much profit as possible right now at the expense of society.
I like this. I think this is the first time we have what seemingly looks like different opinions, but it's actually the same conversation. And I love how we are summing this up, because what I'm hearing is it is not expensive in the sense that there is, especially if we're looking at someone maybe who's just living their lives, there are decisions that can be made which maybe won't require them to spend a little bit more. But on the flip side, if you're running a business, sometimes the sustainable practice would have higher, cost implications in the now, but quadruple the benefits in the future, which I think is a very great way to wrap up this particular episode. Sabrina and Rispa, I really wish we had more time to discuss even more.
I know. But, invite us again.
Yeah.
I just might. So thank you so much for making the time. And thank you for the wonderful conversations. I think even outside the podcast, I think there will be follow-up newsletters and things of the sort, just to continue to put a spotlight on all the wonderful work that you guys are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asante.
This was awesome. Yeah.
Let's go. Thanks to our lead partners, CEO Roundtable and IUCN, under the Resolve NBS initiative. Together, we've collaborated and brought you the Sustainability Bongo podcast, where we have conversations that help us decode the Tanzanian sustainability story.